Hola a todos, ¿cómo están? I want to thank you for joining us today at ACE's 38th National Leadership Career Summit. And yes, it's fully virtual this year. My name is Tetsiki Felix. I'm a news anchor for Univision Washington and Politica Ya. I'm also proud to be an ACE Advisory Council member. I usually sit here to deliver the news day to day. And today, I'm excited to join ACE from Washington as we come together to embrace our collective power during this plenary keynote session. It's a segment sponsored by McDonald's. For those of you who tuned in yesterday for the Leadership Development track, I hope that you gained valuable insights and lifelong lessons. It is fundamental to be courageous leaders and address the very pressing issues of racial injustice in the workplace. Now, if you are joining us today for the very first time, I want to welcome you. There is so much for us to learn, and we hope that you will be inspired by this session. I hope also that you get a deeper involvement in this mission and the community engagement. Now, this afternoon, I am delighted to serve as your MC as we come together to explore this year's theme, our collective power, Latinovate. In a year like no other, when we as individuals have been forced to come together to fight unprecedented challenges, this theme resonates more profoundly. Exclusivity in our society is now front and center. And although we have begun the fight and have made strides to build inclusive spaces, each and every one of us must take an active role to achieve an inclusive workforce and society. Today, ASA invites you to Latinovate. Our work within the Latinx community is vital, but it alone is not enough. To Latinovate is to build allyship beyond the Latinx community. It is to see yourself both as an individual as a component to the various communities you represent, and to take action towards inclusivity. It also means action among your peers, your colleagues, your friends, your family. Action in your workplace with your team, your leadership. Action extends to each facet of your life. In fact, it is this action that represents our collective power, leading yourself, leading in the workplace, and leading our communities. Today, we will hear from Kathy Reyes Hernandez, computer science major at Northeastern University, ASET Dr. Irving Vini Caravallo Scholarship recipient. We will also hear from Victor Negrete, Masters of Teaching student at the University of Illinois at Chicago, ASET Dr. Irving Vini Caravallo Scholarship recipient. We will also hear from Stacy De Armas, Vice President, Strategic Initiatives and Consumer Engagement at Nielsen, Jose Sanchez, Presidente and CEO of Norwegian American Hospital, leading in the community. Now, over the next hour, each speaker will guide us and to think about the various aspects of our collective power. Now, I would like to welcome Kathy Reyes Hernandez, one of this year's ASE, Dr. Irving's Vini Caravallo Scholarship recipient. She will share with us her insight of leading self. Let's listen.
Hello everyone, my name is Kathy Reyes Hernandez and I am a student at Northeastern Illinois University. I am majoring in computer science and minoring in psychology. I was born in Mexico and I came to the US when I was 9 years old. My parents and I had to leave our country due to financial barriers and violence in our country. We started over in the US and it was a very challenging time, but eventually I learned English fluently and I was able to advocate for myself and for my parents. Because of this, I acquired leadership and advocacy skills which have shaped me to be the person that I am today. My educational journey to this point has not been easy. I am a DACA recipient, which means I am not eligible for financial aid. This made my transition from high school to college to be a very difficult one. Being a first-generation student and being the only child and having my high school advisor tell me that she did not know what to do with me left me feeling very lost. I graduated from high school being valedictorian with 4 years of extracurricular activities and volunteering experience, but I did not have the guidance on how to afford college. Regardless of this, I persevere and during my time at city colleges, I was able to build relationships with professors and make friendships with other DACA recipients, which helped me to finally receive my Associates in Science from City Colleges of Chicago last year in May. And now I am on track to graduate from Northeastern with a bachelor's degree next fall. During this time, I've also developed a really strong passion for giving back to my community. I was a marketing and communications intern for the Chicago Literacy Alliance, where I helped promote literacy in many of Chicago's communities. I was also a Chicago Public Schools intern for the Department of Foreign Student Services, where I assisted newcomer families coming from over 70 countries across the world and helping them navigate the city's educational system. My goals are always rooted back to giving back to the community, and I hope to do so through psychology and technology. I am extremely grateful to ASE and to receive the 2020 Dr. Irving Vinny Caravallo Scholarship. Thank you to ASE for dedicating themselves to giving back to the community and helping aspiring Latino professionals. And I am proud to be a Dr. Irving Vinny Caravallo Scholarship recipient because of his legacy in being a prominent leader in the Hispanic community. Like Dr. Irving, I hope to be a prominent leader and continue to give back to my community. I currently work as a student aide for Northeastern at the El Centro campus, and this would not have been possible without the relationships that I've built with faculty and the program that I did during the summer last year, which is the Google Computer Science Institute program at Northeastern. There I was the only girl out of 14 students to participate in the program, and I learned how to build an app from scratch with having no programming skills before starting the program. And this summer, I had the opportunity to assist the director of Northeastern Illinois University at the El Centro campus by engaging and helping incoming freshmen with their programming projects during the Google CSSI online program. And now this fall, I will be a peer leader at Northeastern, where I will help professors during weekly workshops to help students with their programming skills. I know that these are very, very difficult times that we are all experiencing due to the pandemic and due to long-standing systemic health and social inequities. But I just want to remind you that that you should hold on to the ways that you have been resilient before and the ways that you have been resilient now. And I think that will serve you in the long run and will help you propel you forward. And through that, you will be able to continue to help our communities during this very difficult time. I would also advise to take some time off and schedule time for yourself because you need to recharge your own batteries before you can help someone else. My last piece of advice is that if you are experiencing imposter syndrome and self-doubt like myself, I would reach out to mentors and to professionals who are your managers or supervisors or those that are Latinos or Latinas that have the same career that you are hoping to have, and ask them about their experiences, and you will most likely find that they have felt the way that you are feeling right now. And regardless of that, I would say that, continue to move forward and dust yourself off even if you fail. Professor told me this summer that it's only considered a failure if you don't try again, and I wholeheartedly agree. If I had given up after high school, I wouldn't be here sharing my story, so I hope that you all try again regardless of your failures. I hope you enjoy the ASE National Conference. Thank you.
Kathy, I want to thank you for your thoughtful insight. I know that your story has inspired many joining us today, and now let's welcome Victor Negrete, the second ASE Dr. Irving Vinny Caravallo Scholarship recipient for this year. He too will be sharing his insight on leading self. Let's take a listen.
Hello, my name is Victor Negrete Martinez, and I am one of this year's ASE's Dr. Irvin Vinny Caravallo Scholarship recipients. I was born in Irapuato, Guanajuato, Mexico, and my parents and I migrated to the States at a really early age in my life. We first arrived here in Chicago in the Southwest Side communities in Back of the Yards and Brighton Park. And I am the oldest of 6. And currently I am a graduate student at UIC studying education in hopes of becoming a educator in the public sector. When I think about one of the reasons why I'm proud to be a Dr. Vini Caraballo scholarship recipient this year, it's because the scholarship focuses on service. And I think when you look at Dr. Caraballo's legacy and his work and what he's done for Latinos in providing resources and platforms to develop professionally, I think that speaks volumes. And I think that this scholarship particularly highlights my service, not only in my community, but across the city. For the past 6 years, I have been working with young people through the Archdiocese of Chicago in various churches of the southwest side of Chicago. And a lot of the work that I've done with young people is with a theological base, but I incorporate a lot of teamwork, building elements, and a lot of also personal development to help my young people, help them and aid them in their personal development. And so to establish goals and also to challenge them to feel, to be able to lead, whether that be in an extroverted or an introverted way. I've also been involved with a lot of I've done a lot of political work, a lot of political organizing through United Working Families. That is a statewide non-for-profit organization with the mission of running candidates from the rank and file that will champion progressive policies for working class and communities of color, and that would put these entities first over the wealthy, well-connected individuals of the 1%. And so I've also been really involved with Mi Gente, which is a Latino nationwide organization with hubs throughout the country, with the mission to educate our communities about social political issues. We recently did Escuelitas this last fall, where we educated our parents on the reasons why the Chicago Teachers Union was on strike, what were their demands, and how we can support them. And this was born out of the need to provide real information that the media was not providing. And I think as I move forward and in the present time, but also in the future of my educational and professional career, I think that one of the things that when I think and reflect about how I've got to this point is that my calling to teaching came at a really early age in my life. And so I feel that all of my service, both through the Archdiocese, but also a lot of the political work that I've done, has really reinforced this calling. I think that teaching is courageous and teaching is a political act. And so I plan to use my classroom as a platform to not only enable my young people to develop the skills they need to be successful and competent in the modern world, but also use all of my lessons through a social justice lens and perspective to really help them develop critical skills that we need in this day and age, to not just be efficient, but also to be conscious and to elevate the bar and question and think about ways to be more just and equitable with everyone. I think one of my objectives would also be to sponsor an undocumented students club, considering my documentation status, and also raise funds for scholarships for undocumented students at whatever future school that I end up working at. When I think about 3 tips that I would give students right now, I think the first one most definitely is to work on crafting and presenting your story. I believe that everyone's story deserves to be told, and I think that it's one of the biggest things that has helped me develop both personally and professionally. It helps give you a clearer direction of who you are and what are your convictions, and I think that it most definitely helps eliminate self-doubt. The second point that I would highlight is that I would say to hold yourself accountable, especially when it comes to your goals. A goal without a firm plan is just, without a firm plan and execution, it's just an idea, it's just a thought. And I think that you have to be your biggest advocate in every space that you occupy, and I think that you should lead with your heart. And the last tip that I would suggest is that your work is a reflection of who you are as a person. Therefore, I think that you should approach everything with respect, gratitude, and opportunity to grow. And I think that you should, devote your entire self to whatever it is that you commit to. And so, yeah.
Victor, muchas gracias. It is heartwarming to see that our young people are ready to lead courageously. And I wish you both the best as you finalize the studies and wish you to continue to be strong leaders in our community. Now, let's shift from looking at ourselves and our personal growth and development, now to that of our community. Let's think about what it looks like to strive for equity in our workplace. No matter your position, your role, you can take action to influence equity in your workplace. To share more about how she takes a collective leadership approach to successfully influence equity within Nielsen, I'd like to introduce to you Stacy De Armas, Vice President, Strategic Initiatives and Consumer Engagement at Nielsen. Stacy.
Hola, welcome to Latino Bait 2020. My name is Stacy De Armas, and I am a first-generation Cubana. I work at Nielsen. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with you about leading in the workplace. We often hear that good leaders make big changes. I'm here to talk with you today about how I think that is a flawed logic. And it's interesting because leadership is a word that's often misunderstood, perhaps because leadership takes form in so many different ways. When we think of leaders, we think of very strong personalities, somewhat dominating, or people at the top tearing down the old and building up the new and creating things. But of course, in your career and in your life, you've encountered those who lead softly and with grace. And the truth is, we ask ourselves sort of, what is this balance, right? What I've come to understand is we can lead with influence at any role, at any stage of your career. It is how you lead that looks a little bit different at each stage. Because real leadership isn't about managing or organizing or structuring. It's actually about guidance and influence and direction. Sometimes breaking boundaries and building new, but sometimes working within them. But most importantly, it's about encouraging the outcomes that you want. When I reflect on my career, I'm not sure I ever really thought of myself as a leader or an influencer, but I think I was. At the time, early in my career, I thought of myself really mostly as a doer. I was raised to be grateful and humble and gracious, and I wouldn't dare push my opinions on someone in charge. My job was to follow, and that's sort of the way I was raised. My immigrant family impressed upon me that I should be grateful I have a job, and these cultural behaviors run pretty deep within Latinos. Although the closer I look, I really can see all the places and times where I did influence and change outcomes. And every time, I find I was mostly leading with my gut, right? The change I was driving, even if I couldn't see it, was generated from this feeling that I had that was very passionate about doing something different for the right reasons. So when I look, as a whole at my career, it feels like it was about standing up and speaking out and taking action or course correcting something. From the time I was working at the bank to the time I was a waitress to the time I was a media buyer and then my career on afterward. And that's not to say that in any of those jobs I saw things that were necessarily wrong. There were tried and true systems that were really valuable, and they were perhaps even working or perfect. It's to say that I was able to see different ways of reaching perhaps a slightly different or more advantageous goal. So I'll explain that a little bit. Why did I think that way? Perhaps that was cultural too, right? Growing up with limited resources, we amended what we had, we fixed, we built, we adapted, we rethought, we revised, and we retrofitted. We didn't throw away and we didn't buy new. And I can see now that those are the very behaviors that I've carried within me and are really at the root of my leadership style. So to illustrate that, I'm often caught saying at work, I know what we can't do, but what can we do? And it's interesting because it makes me realize we don't always need to break things down. Sometimes we can revise and retrofit. And some of the most profound leadership experience I've had in life have to do with thinking about things differently. Do we need to differently represent people? Should we be acknowledging differences and planning for them? Is this fair to all people? And what could we be doing better? Right? All these questions are centered around revisions, retrofits, and refinements. And so I'll say it again, we don't always need to rebuild, tear down and rebuild. I found my wings in diversity and inclusion early on, and for that I'm very grateful. But I realized looking back that I placed a diversity lens on everything I did, perhaps because I saw my family treated differently or because I saw my community misunderstood. So I advocated for equity and I led in that space, whether they gave me the opportunity to or not. But truthfully, as a white presenting Latina, I was given this opportunity to do so. And I knew I had a responsibility as such. I could use those opportunities I was granted to lead through influence. So one of my first jobs, I was working at a bank, and I worked in Pomona, California, where more than 70% of the population is Latino. And my job was to work specifically with Spanish-speaking clients who were working on gaining financial literacy and becoming banked. And I saw early on that playing field just really wasn't level, that what these clients needed and what was being offered was often a mismatch. So within the limited power that I had, I revised, I retrofitted, I refined the offerings to meet their needs, and I encouraged those around me to do the same. And this was, again, really early in my career. I didn't have any power to change products or protocol, but what was within my power was to find a better fit. And at that time, they didn't look at our clients through a diverse lens. I did, so I revised and I retrofitted, but most importantly, I shared the thought process, right? And that was the way that I influenced and the way that I led. We often see people at the very top saying all the right things, specifically relative to diversity, but the layers beneath them don't either understand or feel accountable for diversity or inclusion, or don't have the resources to activate. That was my, I think, the experience of my group right before we realized what we could do. And I'll admit at these early career levels, leading in this way can be challenging, but again, it depends on how you lead. At this stage, it's less of a matter of inventing something new and more about applying your lens, as I mentioned, mine was diversity, to the work that you do. As my career advanced, I continued to advocate for what was right or what was good or better, right, in all the different roles that I had. And I really wanted to be a transformational leader and a visionary, and I wanted to build and to invent. And it was through slowing down that I realized that revising, retrofitting, and rethinking is in fact inventing. It is leadership. It's leadership in big steps and small steps, large new forays and smaller edits that make all the work that we do better and brighter. There just might be a flawed logic to that theory I told you about, which is big changes equal big results, and I think it's true. My advice to you for leading in the workplace, in the world of business, sometimes the smallest changes to models and approaches can be substantially more effective than large and disruptive ones. And in fact, some of the most successful businesses are often those that make the smallest changes. So don't be afraid to refine, to adjust, to reboot, and to make small edits. Let your heart lead your leadership style at work. Thank you for the opportunity, Patricia and team. Thank you for having me here, and adios.
Even though change and progress are not happening overnight, they are happening. And this is only because leaders like Stacy are taking a collective approach to influencing equity. She's coming to the table with an inclusive mindset and equity-focused solutions. Thank you, Stacy, for sharing your insights and for being a change maker at Nielsen. Next, I would like to introduce you to Jose Sanchez, President and CEO at Norwegian American Hospital. He's also a dear friend of mine who has always inspired me and those of my circle. Today, he will share how his community involvement exemplifies leadership.
I want to thank the leadership of the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement, ACES, for hosting this virtually event. Throughout this current pandemic, we all have to reinvent how we serve our respective populations. And it is very clear that ACES continues to play a vital role in ensuring Latinos still have access to the resources, tools, and networking they need to be successful in the workplace, especially women. I truly commend ACES for their unwavering dedication and commitment to all Latino professionals throughout these very challenging times. Congratulations to Chair Olga Camargo, President and CEO Patricia Mota, and the entire board of ACES for all successes achieved during the past several years. Your leadership and commitment to not leave anyone behind should be applauded. I am also honored to be recognized as this year recipient of the 2020 Servant Leadership Awards. This award is truly humbling and special for me, and I want to express the greatest appreciation to those involved. I hope to continue to uplift and inspire others through my service and my story, as I am a firm believer that success is basically a journey, not a destination. And I am happy to share this journey with all of you. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Jose R. Sanchez. Since 2010, I have been proud to serve as President and CEO of Norwegian American Hospital, located in the Humboldt Park community of Chicago. For over 40 years, I have honed my career as a senior healthcare leader responsible for operational, strategic, and fiscal management of multifaceted health care system, and currently I am Chicago's only Latino CEO. I was born in Puerto Rico, and I began my journey at the age of 15 when I moved to New York City from Puerto Rico. I was raised by both parents, but my mother always emphasized the value of education, and she ensured that all of the kids will attend the best schools. I attended La Salle Academy, one of the best boys' schools in Puerto Rico. This established a solid foundation for me when I arrived in New York City. I then made so determined decision to succeed in high school, college, and throughout graduate school. Due to an intense calling I experienced in college, I changed course from architectural studies to psychology. The competitiveness of New York was a real challenge, but I took full advantage of every opportunity in front of me, as I was one of the only few Puerto Rican college graduates in New York City in 1977, when Puerto Ricans represented 1% of college graduates in our nation. While in college, I further honed my career aspiration as a paid labor organizer for one of the largest healthcare unions in New York City, 1199, which subsequently paid my education. I continue to foster strong core values of respect and willingness to help others. Then, as a volunteer at a psychiatric hospital in New York, I acquired a great deal of influence and power, and I used this influence to help many other individuals. From there, I cultivated my passion for creating opportunity for others even further. During this time, I became more focused on developing an impactful career and took advantage of every opportunity before me, including at a time a salary cut to take a position as a manager. So my advice is, do not get hung up in money yet. Develop your career. I assess and optimize my own strength in order to become a leader in human services. This passion carved the path of my career. Also, having a mentor to advise me as a contributing factor of my success. Eventually, I excelled in the management of hospital systems, both in New York City and actually the opportunity to run one hospital here. Please know that I am sharing my story with you because I want you to understand the value of developing and mastering effective ways to get ahead of the game in your professional career. You must harness the respect of your workforce, peers, and leverage this strength throughout your entire career. As a leader of a large workforce, I can tell you that leaders must always be willing to share their story, even if those stories actually have a difficult path. Additionally, I want to dedicate my story to all of you because I think it is important that when you focus on something that you really want, then you are able to be there. I so happen that I love the kind of work that I do. I have a passion for my commitment to people and humanity. And it's reflected based on some of the things that I do. I spend a lot of time in working with different boards, all volunteer boards, non-paid boards, but with a commitment to advance not only my career, but also to represent those of you who are listening to this video today. I serve on the Illinois Health and Hospital Association. I sit on the executive committee and give me the opportunity to basically know firsthand everything that is going on in healthcare in our city. I also serve on Boricua College of New York. It's a 4-year college that help individuals that actually otherwise would have never been able to make it in a regular college. Most recently, I joined the board of St. Augustine College in the city of Chicago. And I also serve on the board of the City Club of Chicago. I'm also the chairman of the board of the Water People Theater Advisory Board. And most recently, I was just appointed to be the chair of the board of trustees. Remember, civic service is a must. Do not underscore your responsibility to give back to your community professionally and personally. Lead through mentoring and opening doors to others. Do your part in developing the next generation of leaders. Is your charge. Make your mark on the world and leave a legacy for others to follow. While working in New York City hospitals, I recognized that existing language barriers were an opportunity to affect positive change in our community. So I challenged myself to overcome this obstacle. And I was able to really be a great advocate for providing bilingual, bicultural healthcare to individuals in our city. I'm proud to say that I was one of the first ones to be able to break down barriers that services needed to be provided in the language and the culture of those individuals that we were saving. I want to make this passionate plea to each one of you. Effective leadership goes beyond just having a job. You must be willing to become an advocate for your profession and for your community. Seek out daring and bold approach to affect your success. Always be willing to challenge yourself and move ahead. I have always envisioned successes beyond simply what was just in front of me. So I advise each of you, create a global vision to affect your own success that is inclusive of those around you professionally and personally, and then outline what success looks like for you and these stakeholders in the following ways. Focus on strategically planning and timing for your desired outcomes, and emphasize quality. The quality of your commitment, efforts, and professional relationship can easily determine the quality of your outcome, so take responsibility for your own successes very seriously. Continually manage your physical health and professional stability. No one is going to trust you unless you can manage your own personal life. Take full advantage of emerging technology. The world is quickly evolving into something that we all have to adapt to. Don't allow your aspiration to fall behind because you fail to catch up to the new norm, reestablishing yourself and every single day. Always foster community. No one truly gets ahead by leaving their own community behind. What you do want to leave behind is your legacy. Make a difference in the life of the people around you. In closing, the step of building a more inclusive workforce and society begins with you. You are responsible for it. By contributing your talents and strength, we can all make a significant impact on the world around all of us. So it is fundamentally important that we make your roles matter in all things that matters through efforts achieved individually and collectively. This charge is even more important today than ever before. Reflect on the most recent events in our country and glean important lessons from them and what you want to leave behind. Remember, the sum of all of our achievements do not belong to us. Our successes are to share with others. I wish you all the best and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you, Jose. Muchas gracias for sharing how you invest your time, your talent, and treasure in our community. Your contributions have changed the lives of so many, and I really hope that they will today accept your challenge to expand their contributions and support and uplift their communities. Well, it's been a pleasure to learn from each one of the speakers today. Again, thank you, Kathy, Victor, Stacy, and Jose. Your passion and your knowledge, as well as the leadership, has opened many minds, hearts, and has inspired us to continue to lead in ourselves, in our workplace, and our community, as we tap into our collective power. Muchas gracias. Juntos podemos. Y para adelante. Hasta la próxima.